Hello, I'm Antonio, and welcome back to another edition of DM's Dungeon. Edition, episode, apparently I don't know what to call it. Anyways, today we're going to talk about the difference between good and bad immersion. Now, there is a metaphor that I like to use when it comes to immersion, and that is swimming. Now, usually the player's desire to be immersed is kind of equivalent to how hot it is outside on a summer day. And how immersed they want to be in is literally like how immersed they want to be in a swimming pool. And forced immersion, just like swimming, is called drowning. Now, players and DMs, I think, should get together in something I'm going to cover in a later video called a session zero. And I think having a session zero is going to help a lot of things, like what I'm talking about here. Again, the good and bad immersion. There are a lot of different directions you can take your campaign. Just to use the modules as an example, there are two great examples I can use to differentiate. There is the Lost Mines of Phandelver starter set. Now, granted, again, it's a starter set. It's meant for intro adventurers or new players to D&D, but that, you're fighting goblins, you have, just a few encounters, one small cave, let's say, a day. You're not too worried about necessarily running out of arrows or something like that, of running out of rations or water. Your main conservation type thing is, spell slots and that sort of basic stuff that you have to, resource management you have to do at early levels. Now, to jump to another module, Out of the Abyss is supposed to be survival horror influenced. And as any of you know, have played Resident Evil, especially the early ones, Silent Hill, and so forth, a lot of those have to do with, oh my gosh, I've only got so many bullets, I've only got so many potions, and these things are hard to kill, or there's a lot of traps, what have you. So, the difference between these two is detail and attention to detail that relates to immersion. In this way, I think if you were to swap them around a bit, and let's say you weren't pressing random encounters in Out of the Abyss, and all of a sudden, oh hey, look, you just had one encounter today, and you found plenty of food, and you gotta take a rest, That's not gonna make you feel like you're in the Underdark. And the same way, if you're just battling a little group of goblins on the road because they tried to set a trap for your caravan, you're going to slow the game down if you keep saying, okay, and how many arrows do you have now, and do you retrieve them, and let me roll to see how many of them broke. Broken arrows, by the way, another problem with D&D, way too high of a rate, in my opinion, unless you're going with improvised arrows. 50%? How many of them? Anyways, that's another video. But going back to immersion, you can see how something like that, getting too caught up in the minutia of what's going on, can also take a player out of out of the moment. It can kind of de-immerse them. Sorry, wow, great word I just made up there. You can take them out of the moment, as I think I just said. So finding out, especially if you're doing your own homebrew, it's good to talk to players and make sure they know what to expect as far as that goes. Again, this comes back to the session zero that I will talk about at another time, but I think that's good to make sure everyone's in the right group, If someone is looking for a more casual game and they're kind of new, and you're going to go pretty hardcore, so to speak, with Out of the Abyss, that might not be the game for them. And having an opportunity to get together, tell them how you're going to run the game and the types of obstacles they're going to have in the game is going to be very helpful to make sure you have the right group to start with, so you don't have to worry about starting, having to stop, get another player, write them into the story, and all that sort of stuff. And it is also good that players can make characters that fit the setting, you know? Again, if it's going to be the Underdark, they might want something more like a dwarf that has night vision and a little more constitution or fortitude than, let's say, fortitude's not a stat, than, let's say, a human. And it's just, it affects how the player is going to go into the game. So that's why talking about it ahead of time, God, I'm rambling again. Talking about it ahead of time is helpful. And making sure you have that right level of immersion for your players is going to keep them involved. If not, you're going to just come across that problem of glazed eyes. You finish your description and no one's responding because you realize they're all lost in their own heads because you lost them 5 random table rolls ago because they're ready to get on with the story. So it just comes down to knowing your group and getting a good feeling for what people are expecting. Just because of how this video went and all the stuff I talked about, I'm pretty sure my next video is going to be about a session 0. I feel like that would be helpful at this point, if nothing else, to help clarify some of the other things that I talked about in this video and we'll probably talk about going forward. But the moral of the story here, and probably the moral of the story of the session 0 video, is going to be being on the same page is extremely important. And that's one of the reasons I'm not the biggest fan of, let's say, of organized play and getting together with random people, more than having that kind of agreed understanding of the rules that those emphasize. I think it's more important to have an agreed understanding of how the game's going to go and the type of game you're going to play. You're all here to have fun, right? So it makes sense that you make sure everyone's definition of fun is the same. All right, thanks again for joining me in the DM's Dungeon today. I've been Antonio, as always, and I will see you all next time.